Come closer. The Hollow has something for you tonight. You arrive in the hush between lamps, where the carpet remembers every tread, and the house holds its breath just for you. A narrow hall waits, pat. He enters old bark, and somewhere ahead a door stands quiet, listening back. You will hear it, the slow footsteps, measured like a watch that never ticks. And you will feel the secret soften in your hands, like a cool key you don't remember finding. I will be beside you, just at the edge, teaching you how to pass unharmed, how to keep the promise that keeps the night kind. If your breath slows and the dark feels safe, follow my voice and subscribe if you want to hear what the shadows will tell next time. Whisper to me where you listen from city, country. I love to map the night by your candles. Now dim the lights, perhaps light a candle, and drift with me into the story. You stand at the mouth of the hallway, where lamplight narrows and the air hushes you. Ahead waits a plain door that listens more than doors should, and you feel its listening. A rule walks beside you like a quiet hand. Never open that door when you hear slow footsteps. You did not invent the rule, yet it wears the color of your voice. A bone charm hangs from the frame, crescent smooth, tied with black ribbon like a patient moon dot tap. Tap, it says. Keeping time that belongs to nothing visible here, you lift a lantern you do not remember taking, and its weight fits your palm. The flame leans toward the door like a curious ear, then stills to your breath. The rim is carved with little spiraling roots, as if the corridor could unspool. You will not tug the threads the carving suggests. Behind you the hall lengthens like memory, and stays politely dim. Portraits sleep with painted eyelids, and a faint draft cools the back of your neck. A runner stitches the floor with a phrase along its frayed edges. Do not turn, do not turn. You stand and let the house soften the air into velvet so that listening can thicken. Then it arrives from far wood, then nearer wood, careful and courteous in its pressure, slow footsteps. You do not count, then you do, because numbers cradle fear, without letting it grow teeth. 1, 2, 3, a pause to drink a breath, then 4, then 5. The knob shivers without turning, remembering a winter hand it cannot name. The keyhole wears a bright ring, where many looks have slid like comets and burned away. Who looked before you? Were you among them? The charm taps again, and the rhythm tastes like a word you forgot and almost recall. You whisper thank you to no one you can name, both warned and welcome. The steps halt beyond the door, and a full silence presses gently against your ears. You raise the lantern to the seam, and a line of darker dark appears and fades like a sleep smile. You think of clouded storms that never touch the ground and decide your eye will not search the keyhole. The flame adjusts, then holds a small boat that has found the longer tide. The house asks stillness, and you give it, feet cool, shoulders loosening, breath lying down in your chest. The steps begin to retreat, measured and courteous, as if teaching you patience by example. You hear stairs that do not belong here, yet you can draw them in your mind, each tread a shallow breath, each landing a pause to check where the key might sleep. When the last step fades, the echo that returns is seashell soft, more memory than sea. A modest smile arrives, the kind you trust, because it asks nothing further of you. You obeyed the rule, and the rule obeyed you back. This is how safekeeping works in houses that listen. You do not open what is heavy with listening. You let it pass. A heron through reeds, sleep through a tired spine, a name through a quiet mouth. You lower the lantern and notice the flame keeps its height, as if the glass were deeper than it appears. You blink and the corridor blinks with you, frames a little nearer, linen smoothed by invisible hands. A scent rises from the ribbon, resin and dust and bitter orange, breathing a memory of the hand that tied it. The knot is simple, sailors or witches, and untying it might let you hear the rule in a warm room. Was it a voice you would hear, or your own voice grown strange with echo? You lift your fingers and stop, not from fear, from respect for gentle bindings that keep peace. Down the hall a window fogs, and the words do not turn ghost onto the glass, then thin into dew. You touch the cooler pane with the back of your hand, wishing to carry the message without spill. The portraits keep sleeping, yet the room tilts a fraction. Hinting lids might rise. If you demanded witness, you do not demand. Because night works best when trusted. You realize the footsteps were not entirely outside you, their patience still moving in your ribs. Your own pace begins to agree, like pendulums that share a wall and fall into sympathy. You step back by the length of one breath, then another, and your hands fall from the ribbon. The boards answer with a soft creak, a lullaby remembering how to begin. You turn without turning your back, a crescent's worth of movement, and the charm taps farewell dot as you walk. The stitched words on the runner smooth into lines, not language now, only direction. The rule settles inside you like melody, ready to rise without command when needed. Halfway down the corridor, the air thickens, as if a door opens elsewhere for someone you will not meet. There is no draft, only a certainty that kindness stepped through and continued. You bow your head, a habit learned in rooms where candles were friends, and the bow smooths the day from your skull. When you lift your eyes, the hall looks shorter, the door modest. As if it too wishes to sleep, you could leave the lantern to keep. Watch, Yet light deserves company, and the flame seems eager to follow. You pass the sleeping woman with river hair, and notice a thin silver spiral pin you had not seen dotted is an old sign for paths that circle a center without crossing the same place. And your bones agree dot at the end of the hall waits a small table, a shallow bowl of salt, a folded cloth blue as twilight water. You touch the salt and draw a faint line along the door you came from, a grateful mark, not to lock it, not to challenge it, simply to say thank you in the language of thresholds. The granules shine like tiny stars under a floorboard. And for a moment the house smells of low tide. The house and the sea share a patience that sands you down until splinters can rest. You look back once, and the charm is only a pale crescent, the knob only brass, the keyhole only an oval of dark. But not tonight will any key meet that oval. You have learned the first measure of the rule. Never open that door when you hear slow footsteps. You have learned its softer companion that nobody says aloud. If you listen well, the night will keep you. You lift the lantern toward your heart and breathe as if a shore lived inside you, waves finding their rhythm. You move on, slower than before, not retreating, inheriting a quiet you can carry without spilling. The corridor follows, forgiving all the doors you once wanted to open from fear of missing what was meant for you. Here, nothing is missed when you let it pass. Here your waiting is a welcome, and the welcome is mutual. You sleep in a room where the ceiling carries the faint scent of rain. Even though no rain has touched the house in days, the scent has weight. It presses softly on your chest like a folded blanket. You lie still, and the darkness hums quietly in the corners. The hum is not sound, it is the feeling of the house thinking. Your eyes trace the pale line where the wall meets the ceiling. It is steady, like a horizon, but the longer you watch, the more it seems to lean ever so slightly toward the hallway, toward that other door. Somewhere below, the stairs sigh, not the sigh of wind or settling beams. No, this sigh has a shape, a rhythm. It is the sound of something remembering the act of walking. It's the first warning, and you know it. You roll slowly, pressing one ear to the air, not to the pillow, listening. There again. One step, then another, measured, unhurried, like the slow heartbeat of someone deeply asleep but moving anyway. You try to count the space between each footfall. 1 breath, 2 breaths, sometimes 3. It feels deliberate, like someone is deciding whether to take the next step. The sound does not rise or fall in volume. It does not come closer or fade. It is like a tide contained in glass, constant, even, until it changes. The steps now lean toward the hallway above, the hallway outside your room. You sit up slowly, the blanket sliding from your knees. Your bare feet meet the floor, and the wood greets you with its faint, familiar cold. Your body is still half in the dream. You were having a dream of holding a lantern in an empty street. The lantern's light in that dream was pale and cautious, afraid to touch the walls. You shake the image from your head, but it clings like cobweb. The steps find the top of the stairwell. They stop. The pause is heavy enough to feel. It pushes against your skin, like someone standing just out of sight. Holding a thought in their mouth, the door's knob trembles. Not turning, not rattling, just a subtle shiver, as if testing the air between you. You think of the rule. Never open that door when you hear slow footsteps. The bone charm must be swaying now, tiny taps marking each moment the door remains. Closed, you stand. The boards beneath you speak soft creaks, each shaped like the same word. Hush, hush, hush. Your hand hovers near the knob. The air changes instantly. It cools, not sharply, but as if a tall shadow has passed between you and an invisible flame. Through the wood, the steps resume. 1, 2, 3, each the length of a thought you cannot keep hold of. Your mind tries to give the walker a face. For a moment, you picture someone tall enough to fill the frame. Then the image wavers, as if your thoughts are being gently corrected. The figure changes. Now it is you, only older. Only slower. Only standing there with your head tilted, listening. You draw a slow breath. The keyhole glimmers a dark drop of honey that doesn't drip. It smells faintly of iron, though you are too far to touch it. You feel the urge to kneel and look, to see what breath matches the sound. But in the back of your mind, the lantern you left on the small table stirs. Its light leans forward in memory, as though it remembers something you have not yet lived. A warning without words. You step back. Your pulse brushes against the rhythm of the steps. And then they stop. A new sound begins. The faint scrape of fabric against wood, like the hem of a robe brushing the edge of the frame. It is patient, too patient. It is listening as you listen. You try not to breathe too loud. The boards under your toes feel warm, as though the sound itself has weight. There is no lock on this side, only the bone charm. And your stillness, you feel rather than hear a movement on the other side. A lean toward the keyhole, awaiting. You imagine the smell of rain again, stronger now. Filling the space between both sides of the door, your own heart slows. Not from calm, but from mimicry, as though your body is falling into step with the unseen, and you wonder, is that its purpose? To make you match. The pause stretches, until at last there is one more step, softer than the rest, almost weightless, and then the sound begins to fade. Not away, but down, like something taking a stairwell deep into the house's belly. You remain still until the air warms, until the grain of the wood eases under your feet. Only then do you retreat to your bed, The door behind you gives the smallest sigh. Grateful, perhaps, that you left it closed. You glance at the lantern. Its flame is lower than before, though you never touched it. When you lift it, the glass is warm, almost breathing. For a heartbeat, there is a shadow inside the flame. It stands utterly still. It waits, and then it is gone, leaving only a soft, golden pulse. You set it back. Your lips shape the rule, quiet as prayer. Never open that door when you hear slow footsteps. The night leans closer outside the window. It folds around the house like a heavy quilt. And in those folds, the steps still count. Counting not for you, not tonight, but for someone, somewhere. Perhaps in another hallway, perhaps in another dream. The lantern's glow does not fade as the night deepens. Instead, it grows more certain, as though it has decided its purpose. It sits on the table near the foot of your bed, casting slow-turning shadows that curve along the walls. The shapes are not quite familiar. They lean like branches, then narrow into the delicate bones of a hand. Each time you blink, the shadow shifts, always almost, never exactly, the same as before. You should sleep. But sleep feels far away now, not because you are afraid fear would be sharper. This is something else. Something that smooths your edges instead of cutting them. The air in the room is soft, heavy with quiet. It feels as if the walls are waiting for you to notice them. And when you do, you find your gaze drawn to the far corner. There, beneath the chair where you sometimes leave your coat, is something small. You rise slowly, bare feet kissing the boards in the way old wood prefers. The lantern's light follows without moving, its reach somehow stretching toward you. In the corner, tucked between leg and floor, lies a key. Its surface is rough with rust, but the shape is unmistakable, without touching it. That it will fit the forbidden lock. You kneel, hand hovering above it. The metal breathes cold into your palm before you've even made contact, and in that chill, you sense a memory trying to bloom. It comes in fragments, soft footsteps, the feel of a knob turning under your hand, the echo of your own voice whispering, "Wait." But the memory collapses before it can take shape. You take the key. It feels heavier than it should, as though it carries not just metal, but time. The teeth are worn unevenly, like something has been chewing at them in slow, patient bites. When you lift it toward the lantern, the carvings on its bow catch the light, loops of twisted root, winding back into themselves. You've seen them before, carved into the lantern's rim. You carry both back to the table. Setting the key beside the lantern makes the flame shift. It leans toward the key as though in greeting. For a moment, you feel like an intruder watching an exchange meant for older eyes. You sit, the boards groaning under the shift of your Wait, the key hums faintly in the cup of your hand, not sound exactly, but a presence you can feel in your bones. It hums in the same slow rhythm as the footsteps. The temptation comes not as a command, but as a suggestion, soft, harmless. You could take the key to the door now. You could fit it, turn it, just enough to hear what waits beyond. Not open, just turn. You close your hand around it until your knuckles pale. And the hum stops. The silence that follows is heavier than before. The house seems to hold its breath in answer. You rise again, carrying the lantern in your other hand. The door down the hall seems nearer now. The runner along the floor is longer, yet your steps reach the end in fewer paces. The portraits on the wall have turned their heads only slightly, but enough to watch you pass. At the door, the bone charm sways without breeze. The ribbon's shadow coils along the panel like smoke. You can hear nothing beyond it. No steps in no breathing. Only a depth of quiet that feels alive. The key is warm now, as though it has been in the lock before. You lift it toward the keyhole, your movement slow enough to feel each second stretch. And just before the teeth touch brass, a sound blooms from the other side. It is not a footstep, not the brush of fabric. It is the faint clink of metal on wood, like someone setting down their own lantern, just inches away from where yours flickers. You freeze. The bone charm stops moving. The ribbon hangs in perfect stillness. You step back, careful not to make the floorboards speak. Your hand loosens. The key cools again. You turn, walking the length of the hall in reverse, never breaking your gaze from the door. When you reach your room, the lantern's light seems dimmer, but only because the night outside has pressed closer. You set the key on the table. The flame tilts toward it again, no longer cautious, almost affectionate. You lie down, pulling the blanket over you, the scent of rain lingering still. The house settles. Somewhere far below, a single slow step echoes, followed by another, and then nothing but the deep hum of the walls. You close your eyes, the rhythm of the steps still pacing softly inside your head, matching your breathing, slowing your pulse, inviting you to sleep. The night lingers like a held breath, not restless, not hurried, only patient. You wake without knowing if you slept. Your body feels as though it has been moved in the dark, laid back in the same position, but not in quite the same place. The lantern's light has changed. Its glow is deeper, almost amber now, and the shadows it casts no longer lie where you left them. They've shifted, pooling in the corners like spilled ink, drawing longer. Lines along the ceiling. Your room feels taller, narrower, tilted just enough that the floorboards seem to lean away from the door. You rise. The boards beneath your feet do not greet you this time. They listen instead. The air is cooler, but not with the freshness of morning. It is the cool of a place underground. The hallway waits outside your room. It is both familiar and wrong. The runner that stitched the floor last night is still there, but its colors have muted. Threads pulling into new shapes. The stitched words are different now longer, curling, not in your language. You follow them without thinking, letting your eyes move from word to word like stepping stones across water. The portraits watch. Their frames have grown more. Ornate edges curling in delicate spirals, gilded leaves that were not there before. Some faces have turned toward one another, lips parted as though mid-conversation. Others have closed their eyes, as though refusing to witness your passing. Halfway down the corridor, you pause. Something is different with the door. It is closer than it should be, though you have not taken enough steps to reach it. The wall around it has changed to where there was once plain plaster. There is now paneling carved with spirals of root and vine, the same spirals you saw on the key, and on the lantern's rim. You step closer, but the door does not. Wait still. The corridor bends, almost imperceptibly. Each pace shifts the angle, until you realize the hallway has curved into a slow spiral itself, leading you toward the door, in a tightening circle. A faint draft brushes your arm. It carries the scent of salt water, as though a tide moves just beyond the wood, but there is no sound of waves, only a distant, slow tapping, like a finger against glass. You pass another doorway on your left that you are certain was not there before. It stands ajar, showing only a slice of dimly lit space. A table is just visible, its surface covered in neat rows of small glass jars. Something pale shifts inside one jar, though the glass clouds before you can see clearly. You feel the urge to step in, but the corridor tightens, pulling you along, as if it has made other plans for you. You glance back. The space behind you is longer now than when you began. The runner's threads fade into the distance until they vanish entirely, replaced by bare wood. You do not remember passing that change. The portraits here are strangers. Their eyes are older than their faces, and their clothing is nothing you recognize. One woman's painted hands cradle a small bone charm, identical to the one that hangs from the forbidden door. You could swear the ribbon in the painting stirs. The air thickens as you approach the curve's end. Your breath feels heavier in your chest, as though you've climbed without moving upward. The door stands ahead, but now there are two. They are identical. Same frame, same paneling, same bone charm swaying on the same black ribbon. The only difference is the lantern light spilling across them. On one, the flame's glow seems to sink into the wood, warming it. On the other, the light slides away, as if repelled. The key in your pocket grows warmer. It feels heavier. Now, each step toward the doors, pulling at you with the weight of a stone in deep water. You stop halfway between them. The bone charms tap in unison, but the rhythm is just slightly out of sync. One begins a heartbeat before the other. Your gaze moves from one to the other, trying to decide. But the corridor shifts beneath your feet, just slightly, enough to blur your balance. When you blink, there is only one door again. You do not see the moment it changed, it simply is so. You draw the key. Its metal catching the lantern's light, in a strange way casting shadows where there should be none. You take a step, and the wall beside the door breathes. You feel it. The faint give of wood and plaster inhaling slowly. The tapping behind the door grows quieter, as though the unseen has stepped farther into its own space. A mercy, perhaps, or an invitation. Your hand hovers near the lock. The key seems almost to pull forward on its own. But then, the floor beneath you shifts. Not a collapse, but a gentle rearranging. The boards slide underfoot like slow-moving belts, carrying you back. The door grows smaller with each backward pace, though you take no steps yourself. When the floor stills, you are at the far end of the hall again. The runner is brighter, the stitched words now in your own language. They read, "Not yet." You look back. The door is exactly where it should be. The paneling is plain. The portraits are sleeping again. You return to your room in silence. The lantern's flame brightens as you set the key beside it once more. The two objects seem to lean toward each other, like conspirators sharing a thought you are not yet allowed to hear. You lie down, the boards beneath your bed shifting just enough to rock you. Not enough to unsettle, only enough to make. You wonder if the house is lulling you. Your eyes close, and the last thing you see is the lantern's glow painting slow-moving spirals on the wall. Spirals that do not stop when you sleep. You wake with the feeling that someone has been in the room not long ago, just enough time for their presence to settle into the walls, like the faint warmth left in a chair. Your eyes open to the lantern's steady glow, and it seems almost brighter than before, brighter not in color, but in certainty. It is the first thing you notice. The second thing is the folded piece of paper on the table beside it. It was not there when you drifted into sleep. You are sure of it. The paper is thick, the sort used for letters long before your time, with edges soft from careful handling. A drop of wax seals it shut. Pressed deep with a looping spiral of roots, the same spiral you have seen before on the lantern's rim, on the key, in the carved paneling around the forbidden door. You hesitate before touching it. The wax feels faintly warm beneath your fingers, as though it was sealed moments ago. There is no scent of ink, no perfume, of the kind sometimes pressed into paper. Only the neutral smell of dust and dry air. You break the seal with a sound too small to disturb the stillness. Inside, the page is blank, not just empty, but almost deliberately so, like a surface prepared for something to be revealed. Only when you are ready. At first, you think it is nothing. But then the lantern's flame leans ever so slightly toward it. Its light crawls across the fibers, and in that shifting glow faint shapes begin to form. The shapes are not black, or blue, or brown. They are shadows that have no source but the paper itself. Slowly, they twist and sharpen into lines. The first is your name. It emerges softly, as though it is not being written now, but remembered from long ago. Beneath your name is a set of numbers small, neat. You recognize them after a moment. The exact number of steps you took yesterday, from your room to the door, a precise count you never made aloud. Then the letters change again. They seem to melt into one another, reforming into words that tug at the edges of your memory. You will hear it again. The phrase rests there for only a breath before fading into whiteness, leaving the page untouched once more. You stare at it, your pulse quietly matching the rhythm of the vanished words. The paper feels heavier now in your hand. It is not the weight of the material, it is the weight of having been seen. A thought rises in you, quiet but persistent. You could respond, take a pen, and write something back. Ask who, ask why, ask what waits behind the steps you hear. You move to reach for the drawer where you keep a pen, but before your hand touches it, the lantern's flame flickers. It leans away from you toward the page and the edges of the paper darken not from burning, but from shadow thickening along the borders. The black curls inward, folding toward the center, until the blankness is swallowed. For a heartbeat, the page is nothing but night. Then it clears again. The page is white, the wax seal restored, as though you never opened it at all. You place it back on the table, unsettled by how light it feels now, as though the heaviness has passed into you instead. The air in the room shifts closer, warmer, not the warmth of comfort, but the kind that draws you to listen, and when you do, you hear it. A faint rhythm outside the window. Not footsteps, not yet. A tapping, slow and patient, against something unseen. It could be glass, it could be wood. It matches the memory of the tapping you once heard from the other side of the forbidden door. You cross to the window, the floorboards under you cool and uncomplaining. The glass is fogged, though the air is far too cool for breath to cling there naturally. Behind the clouded pane, something moves. It is slow, drifting. The movement reminds you of lanterns, swaying in deep water held back by a current. You cannot feel. You lift your hand and place your palm to the glass. From the other side, another hand rises to meet it. It is not your hand. The fingers are long, the skin pale and unfamiliar, the shape just slightly wrong, as though the joints bend in ways they should not. There is no warmth, but there is the undeniable sense of touch. You blink, and the hand is gone. The fog clears in an instant, leaving only the still night beyond. The tapping has stopped. You return to the table, the folded letter still lying as though it never moved. When you pick it up this time, there is weight again, not the same. As before, this is different. This is the weight of movement. The slow, deliberate pace of something approaching. Your chest feels tight. Your breathing begins to match that unseen rhythm without your permission. The weight in the letter pulses gently. Like a second heartbeat in your hand, you set. It backed down quickly, as though releasing it might undo what has begun, but the echo of the steps reel, or imagined lingers, in your bones. The lantern's flame straightens, steady once more. Its light pooling on the table in a circle that does not spill. You open the drawer and slide the letter inside. Closing the wood over it feels like sealing something away. The moment the drawer shuts, the air shifts again, slightly warmer, slightly looser. And in that moment, you hear a whisper. It does not come from the door. It does not come from the window. It comes from the walls themselves. You cannot catch the words, but the tone is unmistakable. It is the tone of a rule being repeated, something meant to be kept, something meant to be remembered. The whisper fades into the boards beneath your feet. The house exhales. The heaviness in your chest fades, though the rhythm remains deep inside you, soft as a lull. The drawer stays closed, but you know the letter is not truly at rest. It is still unfolding, still holding words you were not meant to see yet. And tonight, or another night soon, it will be waiting. You lie down. The lantern's glow smooths the edges of the room into gentle curves. The shadows stretch along the floor, curling into the shape of spirals that turn slowly, endlessly. Your eyes close, and you feel yourself drawn toward the center of those spirals, not falling, not yet, just turning, in the rhythm of slow footsteps. The room is quiet, the kind of quiet that sits in your lungs. You do not remember falling asleep, but you are certain you did. Because the dream you were having has left its taste behind. A long, dark hallway, the echo of your own steps, and the steady, patient sound of another set. Just ahead, you wake with your breath already slowed. Your body knows something before your mind catches up. Somewhere beyond the walls, you hear it. 1 step, 2 steps, 3, a pause long enough for you to inhale, then for 5. Another pause, as though the unseen walker has matched their breathing to yours. You lie still, listening. The rhythm is exact. The sound is not close, not far. It is simply there, the way the tide is there. Whether or not you stand on the shore, you begin to count without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The numbers settle in your chest, anchoring themselves like stones in deep water. You close your eyes, and in the dark behind them, you see the hallway again. Only this time, you are not moving. The floor beneath you carries you forward, each board sliding underfoot in time with the steps. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. You breathe with it now. In on 3, out on 5. The counting is no longer yours, it belongs to something else. Something just out of sight. You open your eyes to find the lantern still burning. Its flame sways in time with the rhythm. A soft bow to each step. The shadows on the wall shift with it, curling and uncurling like fingers. The sound grows clearer. You realize it is not coming from the hall outside your room. It is coming from further away, yet you hear it as though it were in the very air around you, perhaps in the floorboards beneath you, perhaps inside your chest. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, bare feet brushing the cool boards. And the moment you stand, the steps stop. The silence that follows is deep enough to drink. It lingers for several breaths, and then a single step. Slow, deliberate. You take 1, 2, without deciding to. It is not imitation. It is agreement. The rhythm resumes. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. And you walk with it now. The hallway seems longer than before. The runner's stitched pattern swaying like sea grass in a current. The portraits are half watching, half dreaming. Their eyes shifting between open and closed each time you blink. You do not know where you are being led. The corridor bends, widens, narrows again. Sometimes you pass a door, sometimes only a wall. But the counting never changes. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. You find yourself breathing with the steps, speaking the numbers only inside your mind. Each repetition smooths your thoughts, dulls their edges. The unease does not fade, it simply becomes softer, like cloth laid over sharp corners. Somewhere ahead, you think you see the forbidden door, but the closer you come, the less certain you are. The paneling changes subtly with each step sometimes. Plain wood, sometimes curling roots, sometimes a surface you cannot name. Your pace slows. The unseen pace slows with you. Your heartbeat is no longer yours. It belongs to the rhythm. You stop counting. The numbers keep going without you. You do not need them anymore. They have become part of you. The lantern's flame leans forward, as if straining to see what lies ahead. Its light glances off something metallic at the far end of the hall. You know, without touching it, that it is the key. The same key you have held, the same teeth, the same bough of spiraled roots. But it lies on the floor now, in the exact center between you and the unseen steps. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. You kneel, the boards warm beneath your knees, and reach for it. The metal is cold, not the cold of neglect, but the cold of something recently set down. The moment your fingers close around it, the steps stop. The silence is thicker than before. You feel it pressing at your skin, testing the shape of you. The portraits on the walls are all looking at you now, eyes wide, unblinking. Somewhere behind you, a step lands. You do not turn. Your breath finds the rhythm again without prompting. In on 3, out on 5, the sound moves. Closer, not rushed, not hesitant, only certain, until it stands just behind you. You feel its presence in the way the air bends, in a way the boards under your feet seem to settle. The key is warm in your hand now. Your knuckles loosen, your shoulders soften. It would be so easy to turn, to face it, to hand it, the key. But instead, you stand, you take a single step forward, and the presence takes one back. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The rhythm resumes. You walk it all the way back to your room, never looking over. Your shoulder. When you cross the threshold, the sound fades, as if it has followed you far enough. The lantern rests on your table, flames steady, shadows long and soft. You set the key beside it. The metal hums faintly, matching the memory of the steps. You lie down without undressing, the boards beneath you shifting just enough to cradle you. Your breathing slips easily into the old pattern. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. And somewhere perhaps in the hall. Perhaps only in your mind the unseen walker keeps time with you, slow, patient, unending, until sleep folds itself over you like a second skin. You leave the house when the light outside has gone pale. It feels like morning, but you cannot be sure. The sky carries no sun, only a soft gray that belongs to no particular hour. There is no bird call, no rustle of leaves, only the faint smell of wet stone, as though rain was promised and then forgotten. The key is in your pocket. Its weight no longer pulls at you as it once did. But you know it is there your hand checks without thinking, fingers brushing the cool metal, feeling the familiar twist of its bow. The rhythm of the footsteps is quiet now, far away. Folded neatly into the edges of your thoughts, you tell yourself it has stayed behind in the house. You almost believe it. The streets are narrow, the stones dark with an old dampness that never truly dries. Buildings lean into one another like tired companions. The air is neither cold nor warm. It simply wraps around you, a neutral presence that asks nothing. Your own steps on the stone sound small, fragile. You walk without aim, letting the streets take you wherever they wish. And then, without seeking it, you see it, tucked in the shadow, where two alleys meet stands a door. It is not part of any building here. No hinges anchor it to brick. No frame connects it to plaster. Instead, the walls on either side bend slightly away from it, as though unwilling to touch it. The paneling is plain, but in its center hangs a bone charm, pale crescent, tied with black ribbon. The ribbon shifts once in the still air, a slow sway that feels like acknowledgement. You stop without meaning to. The sound of the street recedes, not entirely gone, but dulled, as though pressed behind glass. You can still see people moving at the far end of the lane, hear the faint clatter of a cartwheel. Yet none of it reaches you here. Your fingers find the key in your took it. They close around it as naturally as a breath. You take one step forward, then another. 1, 2, 3, pause. 4, 5, pause. The pattern is there before you think of it. Your feet find the measure easily. Each pause a breath you do not notice taking. And with each step, the world outside the alley loses more of itself. Colors thin into muted grays, edges soften, sounds dissolve. You stop an arm's length from the door. The charm taps once, twice. The same rhythm you heard in the hallway before. The scent of rain drifts from the wood, cool, metallic, almost sweet. You do not touch the handle, but you feel pressure against your skin, as though something on the other side leans close. A shadow shifts in the narrow seam beneath the door. Not a cast shadow, not a trick of light. This moves with intent. It sways once, twice, as if tilting ahead, then stills. You step back. The shadow retreats. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. You keep moving backward until you step out of the alley's mouth. The moment you cross its invisible threshold, the sounds of the city return, the murmur of voices, the scrape of boots on stone, the clink of metal. You tell yourself to keep walking, so you do. Until, several streets later, you see it. Again, at the far end of a narrow passage between two shops. There it is, the same plain paneling, the same bone charm swaying gently, ribbon black as wet ink. The scent of rain reaches you from here. You pass without pausing, but the glass in the shop beside you, its window dim with dust, shows the reflection of the door turning. Not the whole door, just enough for the handle to face you. You glance back, and there is nothing there. The day, or what you call a day, slips into a haze of streets and corners. You take turns without remembering choosing them. The buildings shift from stone to brick to wood and back again. Shadows grow longer, though the sky has not changed. Sometimes you see the door far ahead, framed by arches or pressed between leaning houses. Sometimes it waits just beyond your peripheral vision, glimpsed only when you turn your head. Once, you find it standing at the base of a stairwell, open just enough to reveal the black between its frame. Another time, it is shut tight, the charm tapping faintly, the ribbons bow neat and perfect. Always it is watching, though it has no eyes to watch with. You try taking streets that bend away from it. You double back. You pass through a crowded market where the smells of bread and spice fill the air. Voices overlapping into warm noise. But when you emerge, on the other side, there it is waiting at the corner, charm swaying, ribbon still as breath. You realize something then. It is not following you. It is simply waiting, wherever you will be. By the time you return home, if this place is still the same home you left, the light has faded into a shade that is neither day nor night. The door you know best stands at the far end of the hallway, exactly where it should be. Its charm sways in the stillness, and from deep within the wood, you hear it. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The rhythm you carried all day settles into place, as though it has finally found its origin again. Or perhaps you have brought it back, like something you borrowed without asking. You close your eyes, fingers curled around the key in your pocket. It is warm now, not from your hand, but from something else. Your breath falls into the same pattern. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The house seems to breathe with you, and the night closes its hands gently around the walls. Tonight, the house feels different, not restless, not calm, but poised, like a hand that has stopped midway to knock, holding still, deciding if the time is right. You move through the hallway without thinking of where you're going. Your feet know. Your breathing knows. It is the same pattern you've carried for nights now. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The runner underfoot murmurs with each step. Its threads have dulled to deep shadow colors, but the stitching still feels alive, as though it is pulling itself taut beneath you. The portraits keep their eyes closed tonight, heads turned slightly toward the wall, as if they, too, are listening. The door is waiting. It does not surprise you to see it there. It never leaves. Plain wood, pale bone charm, black ribbon tied in a knot so precise it might have been tied yesterday. The charm sways once as you approach, not in greeting, but in recognition. You bring the lantern closer. The light glances over the paneling, resting on the keyhole. Brass, worn and dim, edges smooth from years of touches from hands you do not know. Perhaps not all human. You kneel without deciding to. The boards are warm beneath your knees, as if someone has been standing here a long while. The lantern leans toward the door in your grip, its flame bending slightly, almost eager at. First, there is only silence, a silence that isn't empty, it's thick, like fog rolling under a closed door. Then something stirs behind the wood, not footsteps, not the brushing of fabric. A hum, low and steady. It is not quite a melody, yet it curves in a way that pulls you forward. You press your ear near the keyhole. The hum deepens, and you realize it is not one voice, but two, one higher, one lower, braided together so closely they almost become a single tone. The higher voice begins to shape words. They are your words, your voice, but younger, lighter, like a recording from a time before you understood what the door was. It says your name slowly, lingers on the syllables as if tasting them, and then it says something else. A sentence you don't recognize, though every sound feels as though it has been carved into your bones. The lower voice responds not in your tone, not in any voice you know. Its words are slow, deliberate, weighted with something older than the walls themselves. You close your eyes, letting the sound move through you. The hum rises again, weaving over and under itself until it is almost a lullaby, almost safe, and then a scrape, wood on wood, as though a chair is being drawn back from a table. You see it in your mind without choosing to. A long, narrow table in a darkened room. One chair, set for one. The voice pauses, as though aware you've pictured it. Then it begins again. Lower now, closer. The air from the keyhole brushes your skin, cool, faintly damp, carrying a smell you can't name, something like stone after rain. The bone charm above you taps once. Immediately, from the other side, you hear an answering tap. Another charm, hanging there, perfectly aligned with this one. You feel for the key in your pocket. Your hand finds it easily. Curling around its cool metal, the warmth begins. Almost at once, rising from the bow into your fingers, steady and coaxing. The higher voice speaks again, faster now, though you cannot catch the meaning. The lower voice follows, slower, patient, like a tide pulling back. Each time the lower voice finishes, the key feels heavier in your hand. The lantern's flame straightens. No longer bending toward the door, it is listening now. The voices drop to a murmur until you can no longer tell one from the other. You lean closer, almost pressing your eye to the keyhole. A shadow shifts behind it, not a passing shadow. This one stays, filling the narrow circle of light, blocking you from seeing anything beyond. The hum returns, softer now, so soft you feel it in your bones more than you hear it. 1, 2, 3, pause. For 5, pause. The rhythm comes not from the voices, but from your own breath now. And something on the other side is breathing with you. The warmth in the key peaks gentle, insistent. You could turn it, just enough to hear the lock release, not open the door. Just release it. The thought feels almost harmless. The voices fade completely, leaving only the rhythm. You're breathing. It's breathing. Perfectly in time, you draw back slowly, key still in hand. The charm sways once, the ribbons not tightened slightly, as though approving your choice not to use it. The portraits remain turned away. Their silence feels heavier now. You walk back to your room, the boards underfoot whispering in a language too soft to catch. When you set the lantern down, the key in your palm is warm enough to feel alive. You lie down, shadows curling along the walls into shapes that sway in time with the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Pause. For 5, pause. The sound folds into your breath into the sound, and you drift toward sleep with the certainty that the voices are still speaking behind the door. Only now, they are speaking about you. You wake to a room you know, and yet, for a long moment, you are not certain which side of it you are on. The lantern burns low on the table, its light a warm coin pressed against the dark. The glow is steady, but it feels older somehow though it has been burning through nights, you cannot remember. The air carries the scent of rain before it falls, damp and cool, and threaded with something faintly metallic. You sit up slowly. The boards beneath you are warm, holding the last. Trace of someone's weight your own, perhaps, or someone who stood here before you return to yourself. The house breathes, slow and deep, and you feel your body match it without thought. When you close your eyes, the blackness does not stay still. It shifts, folding into shape, and you see it, a door. Not this side, the other. You are standing there now. A lantern hangs from your hand, not the same one that burns beside your bed, but one older, the glass fogged around its edges. The handle wrapped in frayed cloth that smells faintly of smoke and salt. Your hand looks different, more lined, more certain, a hand that knows the weight of this object and the hours it marks. The floor beneath you is bare, the wood smoothed by long use. It smells of old oil and sea air. The space behind you is too deep to see, and the darkness there feels heavy, but not hostile, as if it is waiting for its moment to move dot in front of you. The door stands quiet. Its frame is narrow, its paneling plain, but there is a listening in its stillness. You hold the lantern higher, and the light slides across the seam, where the door meets the frame. It spills into the keyhole, just enough to draw a thin, gold-edged circle on the other side. Dot in that circle, you see a face. Your face, not the you who holds the lantern here and now. But another you, eyes wider, breath quickened, leaning in to look through the same narrow opening. The recognition is instant and complete. You know this other you the way you know your own breath. Above you, a bone charm sways. Its tap against the door is light, deliberate, from the other side. You hear an answering tap precisely matched, as if mirrored. You lean closer. The wood between you feels warmer than the air, as though it remembers your hands from both sides. You want to speak, to tell the other you not to open the door, to pass on the rule you have kept so carefully. But the words do not rise easily. They hang in your throat, caught between your lungs and your mouth. The other you tilts their head, waiting. In the pause, you realize they may be here to warn you as well. The thought blurs the edges between you, your breath, and theirs begin to fall into the same quiet rhythm, so close you can no longer tell which one began first. Your lantern's flame flickers, casting long, slow shadows that ripple across the door. You adjust your grip, and the light draws a curve along the seam, a line that almost looks like it might open of its own accord. You reach into your pocket and feel the key there, warm, weighty. It is the same key you have carried for nights. But here, it feels older, as if it has been passed between you more times than you can count. You don't remember placing it into the pocket of this version of yourself. Perhaps you didn't. Perhaps it has always been here, on both sides of the door. The other you shift slightly. The lantern in their hand moving just enough for you to see that its rim is carved with the same. Spiraling roots, the glass catches the light and sends it back toward you, thin and fragile, like a thread stretched across water. The space between you feels smaller now, as though the door has leaned in. You could stay like this forever, watching yourself, listening for words that never quite arrive. But something in the air begins to change. The warmth in the wood fades. The shadows in the other room grow longer, thicker, pulling at the corners of your vision. The other you steps back, only half a pace, but it feels like more. Their light shifts, dimming against the press of the dark behind them. The bone charm above you swings once, and the answering charm on the other side sways in perfect time. You want to call out, to break whatever is happening, to anchor this moment before it drifts away. But the breath you take is too slow, and the air between you is already cooling. The other you retreats another step. Their face slips out of the keyhole's narrow circle of light, replaced by the shimmer of shadow. The seam of the door becomes only wood again, and the gold thread of light fades. When you blink, you are back in your room. The boards under your feet are the boards, you know. The runner lies in its place, stitched patterns quiet and unreadable in the lantern's glow. The key in your pocket is cool now, resting without urgency. Yet you know, you have stood on both sides of that door, perhaps in the same night, perhaps in the same breath. And if it happens again, and it will, you will not know which side you are on until the moment is already passing. The lantern burns steadily beside you. Its glow folds into the walls, smoothing them into softer shapes. You lie back, the key pressing lightly against your leg through the fabric. Your eyes close, and the image of the other you lingers, lantern in hand. Head tilted in the same quiet listening you have always kept. Tonight the door feels nearer than breath, nearer than the soft skin of your wrist against the sheet. You stand because the house remembers your name, not as a call, as a leaning. A room inclining toward you the way a plant leans toward. A window. The lantern knows your palm. The corridor remembers your pace. The portraits have turned to the wall, faces hidden in kindness. Somewhere a clock without hands keeps the hour. That means watchfulness. Its jawless ticking, no. More than breath. You walk as through a tide to the ankles, and the door grows before you like a moon returning to itself. Plain wood, pale charm, yet the panel holds depth tonight, as if larger rooms breathe behind it. Wood that can hold an ocean without speaking of storms. You let your lungs come level with the house. You let the lantern stop translating your thoughts and simply burn. You draw the key. Its weight easy, the bow's spiraled roots keeping a little light. The metal does not warm or chill. It settles like a sleeping animal awakened without moving. You kneel, the boards give kindly. And for the first time, you do not take your ear to the keyhole. Curiosity is a flavor, presence the meal. You offer the meal, the door attends. Its attention brushes your face like a moth's wing. Almost nothing, entirely everything. You place the key into the mouth of the lock, and do not turn. You let the metal rest, where it was always meant to rest, behind the wood. A faint rearranging, a curtain settling. The darksem drawn by careful fingers. No approach, no request. Only the consent of a space that knows you are here to keep, not to enter. Opening is not asked of you. Guarding is. Being the place where meeting exists without. Crossing, you become the hinge without swinging, the latch without closing. It is gentle and heavy. It asks a stillness that is not sleep, a quiet that can look into quiet and not hunger. You let that density fill you, not light, not dark, the gravity of belonging. The bone charm makes a pale arc. The ribbon murmurs against wood. You think of cottage doors with herbs overhead, cellar doors keeping winter's patience. There is no hero here, only a watcher. A kindness that stays until the need is over. The key grows nearly weightless where it rests, not because it has changed, because the asking is shared now. A table rises in your mind. One place set, a chair drawn back an inch, a cup warming a thin ring into the wood. The image feels like memory, with its corners worn smooth. You do not reach for names tonight. Not the herb, not the exact knot, not the word. That would be too sharp. You keep the seam untempted, the house unstartled, yourself unmoved. You breathe like a mild sea under a kind moon. The lantern's flame narrows and widens, as if reading a story told in hush. From deep in the panel comes the quiet of a sheet being smoothed. You notice how often you have opened things to prove they were harmless, and how rarely you have allowed harmlessness to continue untouched. The lesson enters like warmth. Asks nothing but that you stay when you think of stepping back. The door's presence leans as if to accompany you. You smile and remain, neither inviting nor dismissing. The middle that keeps both possible, so neither must happen tonight. Both may rest. In the lantern's glass appears a simple geometry, an oval of fire. Within darker ovals, a keyhole is another of that family. You wonder gently if an eye on the other side is also refusing to look. If another watcher holds a low lantern and learns the same permission, a whisper threads. The seam, not a word, only the rasp of cloth passing. You do not chase meaning. You let it be the weather of a room you are not in. Each time you do not reach, the door quiets. Each time you refrain from naming, the hidden space becomes itself. Your knees voice their small mortal truth. The grainy ache you cherish, proof that a body can be patient. You rise without withdrawing the key. The bridge remains. Standing, your reach grows, and the hallway seems to take a longer breath. The knot draws a touch tighter, as if remembering. The charm answers the lantern with its own small moon. You brush the ribbon with the back of your finger. Respect, not interference, and a scent of resin, and bitter orange rises. For a heartbeat, the other side is a walled grove. Then a kitchen, then a pier at night, then a quiet room where a single garment waits. You accept all four, none cancel the others. The door holds enough world to keep them true. At last you speak, only the rule you were given. Never open when slow steps pass, said aloud. It sounds like a blessing. Ash on winter soil, soft, nourishing, asking rest. From within comes a loosening you choose not to name. You let the exchange remain plain, so it can spread evenly. Time does what it does in rooms like this. Almost nothing, exactly enough. Edges soften on your thoughts, and on whatever waits deeper in. You do not wonder how this watch will end. Ending will choose its own minute. The lantern notices first. The flame shortens, then steadies. The key cools until it is simply metal again. Attention behind the panel turns back into itself like a tide. All becomes only wood and pictures and thread. And the little hush that tends worn places. You draw the key free, without ceremony. Reverence kept easy, so it can breathe. Stepping back feels like offering shelter, distance as gift. The door looks ordinary again, which is to say, perfectly made for its purpose. At the table, the shallow bowl of salt returns your face in shy glitter. You draw a calm line along the threshold, not to bind, to bless. The salt remembers the sea, the wood remembers the tree, the ribbon remembers the hand that tied it, and you remember yourself, the one who keeps company with the closed. Back in your room, the air is newly washed. You set the key on the table instead of hiding it. The lantern tucks its flame low, ready to wake if asked, preferring to dream. When you do, you sit with hands loose on your knees. Across the hall, the door is a star you feel rather than see. There is no triumph, only belonging. You lie down. The mattress sighs. The boards yield in their familiar places. A small breath from the window lifts a strand of hair. Nothing stirs in the corridor but kindness, a quiet soul. Settled it might be mistaken for emptiness by anyone who has never kept watch. Sleep comes like shore mist, in slow curls, touching the table, then your shoulder, then your open palm. You feel the shape of the task again, and know you can do it tomorrow and the night after, not because it is demanded, because it is beautiful. Adore aloud. To remain a door is a blessing shared by two rooms. A watcher allowed to remain a watcher is a blessing shared by two lives. If the presence leans forward again, you will rise. If it turns away, you will let it turn. The gift is not decision. The gift is being there. You remember thresholds before you knew their names. A warm back step. A station platform braided with smoke. The mouth of a path under beeches where you learn not to rush. Each lesson stands beside you like a row of lanterns. There, light quiet, their patience bright, your eyes close, without your asking. The room gathers, the key rests, the ribbon rests. Beyond the door, the deep rooms go on being deep, alive in their patient grammar. Nothing tugs, only evenness remains. The evenness that arrives when a boundary is loved instead of feared. You breathe that evenness into your shoulders and jaw and the tender muscles beside your eyes. There is no need to listen harder, no need to test the wound. What is kept is kept. What is free is free. You hold both truths without effort. And holding them is sleep's favorite work. Before you drift, you let a last thought pass like a quiet boat. If anyone ever stands at this door and needs a watcher, I will be here. It makes no noise as it goes, leaves a wake that feels like home. The lantern lowers. The wall shapes soften into kind weather. The bed learns your weight and promises to remember. You become smaller than the task, and therefore perfect for it. Lighter than the key, and therefore able to hold it. Exactly the size of the threshold you choose. In that rightness, the night turns toward you with trust. The quiet rounds its edges. You are the one who lets the dark pass safely by. And because you are here, it passes, and you go with it gently into sleep. The house is quiet now. Not the listening quiet from before, not the expectant stillness that holds a door in place. This quiet is softer. It rests in the corners like folded cloth. Smooth and without crease, you are still the threshold. But you are also the one who can step back from it now. The key lies where you left it. Its weight no longer a pull, only a reminder. The lantern lowers its flame, a small golden heart that will keep beating until you call for it again. The air is warmer here. It carries the scent of wood and something faintly sweet like fruit ripened in shadow. Your shoulders loosen. Your hands open without thinking. Even your breath slows, as though the room is breathing for you. The hall beyond your door is empty, but not hollow. It holds the memory of your watch, the quiet shape of your presence. And somewhere beyond, behind walls, you do not need to see through. The deeper rooms settle into their own rhythm. You let yourself sink into the bed. The mattress welcomes you like old earth. The boards below giving just enough to remind you. They are there. The ceiling above is steady, unchanging. A sky that will not shift until you do. Sleep comes not as a sudden thing, but as a tide, each thought a wave rolling back into the dark, leaving only sand and the gentle print of what has passed. Your mind drifts further from the door, but the rule remains, anchored in a place no dream can disturb. If the footsteps return, they will find you ready. If they do not, they will still be walking somewhere, counting time you no longer need to measure. The hollow is quiet now. The shadows are resting, and so will you. The tale has ended. Now sleep, if you can. I'll be just beyond the veil, listening.